the border phoenix. When icy winds whipped the frontier pass, I saw them. Paigubei's calloused fingers entwined with Qinxia's, their matching fox fur collars dusted with snow. In that heartbeat, rebirth crystallized. No more chasing ghosts through war-torn wastelands. My carriage wheeled toward the capital's gilded cage, where silk sheets and a crown prince awaited. Let the lovebirds nest in their frozen Eden. I'd build them a paradise of starved ambitions. For without my knives in the shadows, cutting throats that blocked his path, buying generals with my mother's jewels. How long till their hearth grows cold? How many winters before that highest position crumbles like rotten ice beneath his boots? Welcome to my channel. If you like this story, please click to subscribe. There are more wonderful stories waiting for you to listen to. Chapter 1. The second month after Paigubei led his troops into battle and fell off a cliff was also the second month I had been desperately searching for him. He was the man I had been betrothed to since childhood. My childhood sweetheart who had grown up by my side. I searched for him non-stop for 2 months. Exhausted, I fainted and woke up to find myself reborn, with humiliating memories flooding back. The memories in my head told me that Paigubei was currently staying at a family surnamed Qin on the border. He had fallen hopelessly in love with the youngest daughter of the Qin family, Qinxia. Sure enough, outside the Qin family's gate, I saw Paigubei, who had been missing for so long, holding the hand of the woman he loved. Paigubei was smiling so happily, it was the happiest smile I had ever seen on him. At that moment, I realized that I had truly been reborn. And the first thing I did after reincarnating was to give up searching for Paigubei. Let whoever wants him find him. I refused to repeat the same mistake. In my previous life, after fainting and waking up, I disregarded everyone's objections and rushed out into the snow to continue searching. As a result, my body was ruined, leaving me with a chronic illness for the rest of my life. Having been reborn, who would stay in this harsh borderland to search for a faithless man? I refused to search, but the leader of the mercenary group I had hired panicked. Miss Wen, that's your future husband. If you don't search for him, what if he freezes to death? I sneered inwardly. The leader's sister was none other than Qinxia, Paigubei's current lover. In my previous life, this leader, Qin Guang, was hired by me to find someone. He knew exactly where Paigubei was but refused to report it, dragging things out month after month. He was like a money-guzzling beast, demanding exorbitant fees every month, desperate to find the person I was searching for. I even used my dowry to cover the costs, only to end up becoming their family's long-term source of income. By the end of the year, half of my dowry had gone to Qin Guang and his family. Paigubei, relying on the money he swindled from me through the Qin family, is living a carefree life with Qinxia at the border. I pinched my thigh hard to force out an expression of grief so deep I felt there was no point in living. I said, last night, Bei appeared to me in a dream, hoping I would let him go and live my own life. Miss Wen, my entire family depends on this job to survive. So if I don't use him, does that mean I'm denying his family their livelihood? I turned cold. Qin Guang, you told me last night you were going out in the snow to look for someone. What? Were you looking for someone in a brothel? Qin Guang's eyes widened in shock. How did I know? After all, in front of him, I had always been the naive, money-hungry fool, fearing I would press the matter further. He reluctantly dismissed me. That day, I set off on the journey back to the capital. I asked my maid Xiao Qiao how things had gone. She said everything was in order. You learn from your mistakes. This time, I've learned my lesson. When hiring someone, you must reward them for their work and punish them for their mistakes. It's best to set a deadline as well. Qin Guang deceived me out of 500 taels of silver over 2 months. He must return every last coin and pay the price for his actions. The carriage stopped at the Wen mansion. My father and mother, disregarding the cold, were waiting at the door to greet me. Seeing my parents still alive, I recalled all the hardships of my previous life, and all the grievances piled up, causing me to cry until my eyes were red. Once, I had been devoted to the vows made by Paigube and the memories of our childhood friendship. I had failed to judge people properly, leading to the death of my entire family, because I was so obsessed with Paigube. My mother, who had always disliked socializing, attended banquets and mingled with others for my sake. My father, who had always remained neutral in court, abandoned the principles he had upheld for half his life and got involved in factional struggles, forced to support Paigube's rebellion. My mother gently embraced me and comforted me. She said that in life, one meets many people, and things that are meant to be cannot be forced. At the time, I didn't take her words to heart. The lessons of my previous life were bitter enough. In this life, I only sought to protect the Wen family. At home, I was pampered with warm beds, hot baths, and delicacies, and my body recovered in just a few days. During this time, I also received news from the border. I sent Xiao Qiao to hire 2 groups of mercenaries to deal with Qinguang, one group to carry out the mission and the other to oversee it. Within a month, Qinguang must return the silver he had stolen. Once the task is completed, they may take the silver, and the token will be Qinguang's hands. With the token, they can claim more money. It was the month of the 12th lunar month, and when the hands were presented to me in a wooden box, they still looked as though they had just been severed. These hands, which had once played with flowers and defiled many young women, I would take for the heavens. Upon returning to the capital, I did not idle away my time. This winter was particularly harsh, and many refugees flooded into the city. After recovering my health, I began to distribute porridge personally in the outskirts of the city every day. Working tirelessly, the people of the capital praised the Wen family for having such a beautiful and kind-hearted daughter. The young nobles from prominent families who knew me saw that I was no longer frantically searching for Paigube and assumed I had truly let go. Marriage proposals began to arrive at my father's hands one after another. Heaven rewards those who are diligent. After half a month of waiting, I finally met the person I had been waiting for. The next day, the news spread throughout the capital. The Wen family had a daughter who not only had a kind heart and helped the homeless but also bravely saved the crown prince in the suburbs. In my previous life, I begged Liang Yi to end my life with a single blow to put an end to my humiliation. And he did as I asked. In this life, I protected him once to repay my debt of gratitude. Of course, I also had my own motives. Liang Yi must be well. As long as he remains crown prince for a single day, the Wen family will still have a powerful ally. Xiao Qiao was puzzled. She said that ever since I fainted at the border and woke up, I seemed like a different person. I used to hate the crown prince so much, yet now I was willing to risk my life to save him. I didn't say anything. Instead, I recalled the circumstances of my death. Without hands or feet, I couldn't even bite my tongue to kill myself. My head was already beaten to a pulp, yet I still couldn't die. Those days and nights spent in darkness, I prayed for death to end my humiliation. When Liang Yi appeared in Paigube's hall, sword in hand and covered in blood, I thought I was dreaming. At that time, I had already been turned into a human pig by Paigube. It was a torture that turned a person into a pig, and Paigube deliberately kept me alive with medicinal soup. He brought a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Qin Xia to have sex with me every day. To humiliate me, Paigube cut off my limbs, shattered my teeth, and cut out my tongue, placing them in a jar. I'm sorry. Ah, Qing. I came too late. It was the first time I saw Liang Yi cry. I couldn't speak, repeating those 3 words countless times until Liang Yi finally understood. I said, "Kill me. I used to be such a proud and beautiful woman. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I looked at him, desperate to die. He ended my life of endless humiliation. Before I died, I saw Liang Yi standing there. He stood in the shadows, his tall figure resembling a judge. He slowly raised the sword, but his hands were trembling. Just before the sword pierced my heart, he whispered in my ear, gently wiping away my tears. "Don't be afraid. I'll come down to be with you soon." In that moment, a series of childhood memories flashed before my eyes. I didn't always hate Liang Yi. It was just that later, I had Pei Gubei, and he had endless schoolwork and government affairs to deal with. Every time we met, we would argue for no apparent reason, and each argument grew more intense than the last. As we argued, I forgot that Liang Yi had once been my crown prince brother. After drinking the poison, I was about to fall asleep when Liang Yi somehow managed to climb into my room. My original plan was to stay at the city outskirts and push him away just as the knife was about to pierce his heart. But he was too strong, I couldn't move him, and I ended up taking the blow instead. However, compared to my previous life, where Liang Yi was stabbed in the heart and remained unconscious in bed, the current outcome was already within my expectations. "Are you asleep?" he asked me. I lay there unable to move, only opening my eyes. In the flickering candlelight, I caught a glimpse of Liang Yi in black robes, gradually overlapping with the image of him on the day I died. I asked the crown prince what brought him here so late at night. Liang Yi had somehow crouched down by my bedside. I turned my head and locked eyes with his sharply defined face, startling me into looking away. I recalled the words he had spoken before my death. What did they mean? Was I interpreting them correctly? My face flushed for no apparent reason, and I dared not look at him. This prince has come specifically to pay my respects to the renowned kind-hearted gentleman of the capital. A beauty saves a hero, what courage the kind-hearted gentleman has. This man never speaks kindly. So I rolled my eyes at him and muttered under my breath, "You ungrateful dog." Only after I had spoken did I realize my mistake. Probably the only person in the entire world besides the emperor who dared to insult Liang Yi was me. I recalled how my father, the former prince tutor, had punished me countless times for disrespecting my superiors by making me kneel in the ancestral hall. At least today, it was just the two of us. The prince should not be the kind of person to report someone for disobedience. Perhaps he had truly heard me. A clear, deep voice whispered in my ear, "Thank you, Ah Qing." When I turned back, Liang Yi was already gone. On the bedside table lay two exquisite little boxes, one containing medicinal ointment, the other labeled scar-removing ointment. When I was a child, I was mischievous and often fought with Liang Yi. Despite my delicate skin, I never gained an advantage, and he always apologized first. These two boxes of ointment were his customary compensation. I never expected to see Pei Gubei again so soon. Without my covert financial support, Pei Gubei soon couldn't endure the hardships of life and returned to the capital on his own, bringing with him a woman who called him husband. Pei's mother, overjoyed that her son had returned from the dead, hosted a welcome banquet to celebrate, inviting prominent families from the capital. The Wen family received two invitations, one for my parents and another specifically addressed to me. I had always been the favorite daughter-in-law in Mrs. Pei's eyes, both in terms of emotion and practicality. I was the most suitable choice for Pei Gubei. In my memories of the previous life, it was the same. This welcome banquet was bound to be lively. After all, many people wanted to see what kind of girl could replace me in Pei Gubei's heart. Perhaps they might even witness a fight between me and that girl. In the Pei family garden, I locked eyes with Pei Gubei. My fingertips were almost embedded in the palm of my hand, leaving bloody marks. The pain snapped me back to reality. I recalled how he had once looked at me with that face and said he loved me, how he had used me to pave his way, and how he had ultimately blamed me for making him miss his true love. I restrained myself from rushing forward to strangle the owner of that face. The gentleman before me, as gentle as jade, had not lost a single trace of his charm despite years of leading troops into battle. This face had once captivated many noble young ladies, and this man had once proudly displayed the bloodied heads of those he had killed before me. Among them was even the woman who had raised him. Do you like Wen Qing? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had to part with Xia Xia. If you hadn't clung to me, they wouldn't have died. Don't you love me? I put you in this jar to keep me company every day. Are you satisfied? Pei Gubei walked toward me, and I instinctively took a few steps back to keep my distance. The garden was where Pei's mother had called me, likely on purpose. Besides me and Pei Gubei, there was no one else. Upon seeing me, he immediately assumed this was my doing. Ah Qing, did you deliberately have someone lure me here? Very well. Then I'll make it clear to you. My heart belongs to another. Don't waste your efforts. Coincidentally, I spotted a glimpse of pink fabric from behind a nearby rockery. In my previous life, Qin Xia had been hiding there. When I was crying and demanding that Pei Gubei give me an explanation, she appeared just in time. It's all Xia Xia's fault for being too greedy. Sister, please don't blame your husband. It's all Xia Xia's fault. Please grant us your blessing. Hearing Qin Xia call him husband stirred even stronger emotions within me. In a moment of madness, I slapped Qin Xia across the face. At that moment, I tried to recall how I had once smiled at Pei Gubei, and bowed to him with the grace and poise befitting a noblewoman. General Pei. Pei Gubei hadn't expected me to be so distant. The words of refusal were on the tip of his tongue, but he couldn't utter a single word. After all, I had always called him Beigu in the past. The person standing before him now must have seemed very unfamiliar to him. After all, under his indulgence, I had never been so proper before. He had expected me to cry with him, argue with him, and demand an explanation, but he had never imagined that I would treat him like a stranger. Back then, the entire capital knew that we were deeply in love, and that our marriage was imminent. Now, the entire city knows that he has betrayed me and fallen in love with someone else. He wanted to step forward, but he had no reason to do so. I hear that the general has found someone else. This jade pendant is no longer suitable for me to keep. Please return my pouch to General Pei. Pei Gubei hesitated, looking at me with guilt. On the lantern festival of the year I came of age, Pei Gubei gave me the jade pendant under the iron tree and silver flowers by the unnamed lake. He looked at me sincerely and said he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. The look of love in someone's eyes can indeed be faked. But in my previous life, I was the only one who believed it. I ignored all the coldness, distance, and deception, telling myself that Pei Gubei was just too tired. The iron trees and silver flowers, the flowing lights and sparks, were breathtakingly beautiful. I once joyfully handed him the embroidered pouch I had made to express my feelings. Now, there is no possibility between us. General, please burn the pouch and give it to me no more. I didn't even want to have any contact with him, so I placed the jade pendant on the stone table under the pavilion and turned to leave. Pei Gubei stopped me and asked me urgently, "Ah Qing, why are you so resolute? Can you really discard our years of affection so lightly?" I let a single tear fall and pushed him away. Pei Gubei, when we used to argue and cry together, you said that our past affection was merely my one-sided infatuation, forced upon me by my mother, an act of necessity. You said that from the very beginning, you had always regarded me, Wen Qing, as your younger sister. Now that I've taken a step back, you blame me for valuing our past affection too lightly. General Pei, since you can't keep your promise of one lifetime, one person, don't betray someone else either. Ah Qing, Xia Xia saved my life, But I interrupted him. Ah, Bei. This is the last time I'll call you that. Do you choose me or someone else? Pei Gu Bei looked distressed, gripping my wrist tightly. He spoke with difficulty. Ah, Qing. If I say Xia is willing to be a concubine, would you still? I used all my strength to break free from his grip, slapped him, and ran away. Before running away, I noticed the corner of her robe still hanging behind the rockery. I smiled gently, but was suddenly pulled away. Mr. 1. It seems your injuries have healed well. You didn't waste any time slapping that ungrateful man. Liang Yi leaned aside, mocking me with a playful smile. I had no idea where he had dragged me inside the Pei mansion. I was about to speak when Liang Yi signaled me to be silent. We hid inside the room, listening to the sounds outside. Husband, do you no longer want Xia? Outside the window, a tall, handsome man and a delicate, fragile woman were embracing each other. Xia, what nonsense are you saying? Even if I were to give up this wealth and honor, I would persuade my mother to agree to us being together. Husband, Xia doesn't want to be a concubine. Xia only wants to be with you alone. Pei Gu Bei didn't say a word, he simply kissed the woman on the lips. I turned away, not wanting to watch anymore. But when I turned back, I saw Liang Yi's face as red as a ripe shrimp, and his earlobes seemed ready to bleed. I whispered to him, "Why are you blushing? Someone of Liang Yi's status should have had concubines since he was a teenager. How could he still blush in such a situation?" Liang Yi turned away and didn't look at me. This prince is embarrassed for the two of you who are openly indulging in lust in broad daylight. Liang Yi always had his reasons. I watched his back, and a smile involuntarily appeared on my face. After a long time, we heard Lady Pei's loud voice from outside, and the two reluctantly separated. After the banquet began, Liang Yi and I took our seats together. Everyone looked at us in astonishment. Liang Yi rarely attended such banquets. The crown prince had graced Lady Pei's welcome banquet with his presence, and Lady Pei was overjoyed, hurriedly arranging for him to be seated at the head of the table. However, when her gaze fell on Liang Yi, who had never shown interest in women, holding my arm, she couldn't smile anymore. Seeing Qin Xia sitting next to Pei Gu Bei, she was even more furious. But with so many people around, she couldn't vent her anger. Pei Gu Bei stared intently at me and Liang Yi, ignoring Qin Xia, who was talking to him. Liang Yi pulled me toward him, insisting I sit beside him. The seat next to him was where my father and mother were seated, and they were looking at us curiously. "Don't lose face. If you have the guts, sit with me," Liang Yi goaded me. I smiled at him and walked straight over to take the seat. I knew that if I sat there today, the position of crown princess would be as good as mine. With so many eyes on the banquet, the news that a woman from the Wen family was sitting with the crown prince would reach the palace in no time. Anyway, I'd have to marry someone sooner or later. So what's wrong with marrying the crown prince? As the legitimate daughter of the grand tutor, I was more than qualified to marry him. For now, Liang Yi was the only one who could help me extricate myself from the entanglement between Pei Gu Bei and Qin Xia. Pei Mu couldn't contain her anger and glared fiercely at Qin Xia. After being reborn, I realized that Liang Yi was not only sharp-tongued but also childish. He kept serving me food and pouring me wine, as if he thought he was my crown prince consort. "Eat more, and let the one across from you die of jealousy." I handed him a pastry, the driest one. The crown prince should also eat more to shut him up. We bantered back and forth, while Pei Gu Bei across the table kept casting sidelong glances at us. When the banquet ended, Pei Gu Bei finally found an opportunity to call me over. He angrily confronted me. "Ah Qing, have you already fallen for someone else? You and the crown prince?" I repeated exactly what he had once said to me. The past was just your one-sided infatuation. I only ever saw you as an older brother. Pei Gubei's mother tried to stop me, but I ignored her and walked away without looking back. My mother asked me why I had been with the crown prince today. I said, "Mother, didn't you say that things without fate cannot be forced? So I've moved on." Xiao Qiao asked me why I didn't demand an explanation from Pei Gubei. This wasn't like me. Why was I instead facilitating that pair of scoundrels? I took out the scar-removing ointment Liang Yi had given me and asked Xiao Qiao to apply it for me. "Xiao Qiao, do you know why the young master of the neighboring Wang mansion can't forget his deceased childhood sweetheart even after getting married? Because his childhood sweetheart was good to him? The prince loved her deeply. Back then, I was too close to see clearly. I had to die once to gain clarity. For some people, what they can't have and what they've lost forever are the best things. The more I step back, the more I show him I don't care, the more he suffers. Seeing him suffer makes me happy, compared to what I endured in the past. What he endured was only a fraction of that." Pei Gubei's mother was domineering and had planned every aspect of his life from a young age. From the time he should leave the house, the color of his clothes, and the food he should eat, to the kind of people he should associate with, the path he should take in his career, and the kind of wife he should marry. Pei Gubei once told me that even giving me the family heirloom jade pendant under the fireworks and making such a vow were all planned by his mother. In the previous life, Pei Gubei hated me, but it wasn't entirely because I couldn't accept Qinxia. It was more because I was the same as all the things his mother had forced upon him, things she wanted him to accept. Pei Gubei hated his mother's controlling nature, which had almost accompanied him throughout his entire life. He had been suppressed to the point of suffocation and finally found an outlet for his frustration. And that outlet was Qinxia. In the previous life, his elopement with Qinxia was merely a carefully planned act of rebellion. But he failed, and Qinxia was the one who paid the price. He couldn't resist his mother or protect Qinxia, so he chose to play along and take a different path. His mother wanted him to marry me and rely on the Wen family to climb the ranks. But he insisted on scheming for the supreme position, all to finally overthrow the mountain that had suffocated him since childhood and crush it under his feet. In this life, Pei Gubei remains Pei Gubei. His nature will never change. He has always despised being handed something on a silver platter. Now that I have voluntarily stepped aside, Pei Gubei is truly beginning to panic. Pei Gubei hates his mother, but at their core, they are the same kind of person. They cannot tolerate anything outside their planned scope. In Pei Gubei's plan, I was supposed to cause a scene to give him an excuse to escape from his mother. But I didn't. Instead, I grew close to Liang Yi, so he began to recall the little moments we shared in the past. Realizing the feelings between us that he had deliberately forgotten, Pei Gubei would waver and begin to confront the fact that I was no longer his. Just wait and see. When he realizes that we are drifting apart and can never go back to the way we were, his true regret will come later. In the previous life, he could blame Pei Mu for being domineering, blame himself for being powerless, and blame me for everything. He should never have calculated everything against me or discarded the love I had for him. Lately, Liang Yi has been like a different person, still sharp-tongued, but with a touch of tenderness. The day before the imperial edict was issued, Liang Yi asked me if I was willing to marry him, fearing the path ahead might lead to a sea of corpses or eternal damnation. Throughout history, few princes have ascended the throne smoothly. I said, "If your highness grants Qing a life of prosperity, I will gladly accompany you through all the ups and downs of your life." Liang Yi said that if such a day ever came, he would face the swords himself, and I would be the empress. Liang Yi's words always seemed a bit off the mark. In my previous life, I ruined everything because of love. To be honest, I didn't expect much love from Liang Yi. I only wanted to hold power in my own hands and protect the Wen family. As for Liang Yi, a respectful relationship would suffice. Pei Gubei came to find me the day after the imperial decree of marriage was issued. Liang Yi pleaded with me, asking if I could avoid meeting him. I looked at him in disbelief. Smiling, Liang Yi said that if I dared to meet Pei Gubei, he would sever ties with me for half a day. When Pei Gubei entered the front hall, this was the scene he saw. He must have heard that I was about to marry Liang Yi, so he came to find me. Recently, Pei's mother had also come, but my mother found an excuse to send her away. Pei Gubei bowed to Liang Yi. Seeing that Liang Yi had no intention of leaving, he awkwardly turned to me and asked, "Ah, Qing, are you truly going to marry the crown prince?" General Pei. Ah Qing is now my future crown princess. Referring to her as such is an act of presumption, isn't it? Pei Gubei looked at me with a complicated expression and spoke reluctantly. Ah Qing, you said you wanted to spend your life with your future husband. But how could the crown prince's harem possibly have only you? I looked at Liang Ye's face, which was gradually falling apart, and felt like teasing him. Then if I marry General Pei, will you spend your life with me? Pei Gubei wanted to continue, but an unwelcome guest burst in from outside. Qin Xia had barged in on her own. I looked at her swollen abdomen, which was probably why the servants dared not stop her. Husband, please don't send Xia Xia away. I had only seen Qin Xia a few times, and in my previous life, I had only seen her once. I had hit her in the Pei family's garden. Later, Pei Gubei took her away. After the Pei family brought him back, I never saw her again. Regarding Qin Xia's fate, Pei Gubei mentioned it briefly during one of his fits of madness. She married a wealthy merchant and died in childbirth. In my memory, the woman Pei Gubei couldn't stop thinking about should have been beautiful and graceful. At the very least respectable. The woman before me had nothing to do with those words. I felt as though I were seeing myself from my previous life after the Wen family was massacred by Pei Gubei. Desperately kneeling on the ground, begging the higher-ups to change their minds. Miss Wen, please, please marry your husband. He truly loves you. I can be your slave. I can serve you. Just please marry your husband. Qin Xia cried, tears like pear blossoms, kneeling down and repeatedly kowtowing to me. Liang Yi whispered a few words in my ear, and I finally understood what was happening. Seeing that I had already found another suitor, Mrs. Pei began to look for a new bride for Pei Gubei. After much deliberation, she actually chose the youngest daughter of the Duke of Jingua. As far as I know, the girl is beautiful and charming, and has been infatuated with Pei Gubei for a long time. But she is not someone easy to get along with in private. She loves to abuse small animals and her father's concubines. In the Duke's mansion, there are 4 concubines who died at the hands of the Duke's youngest daughter, as I accidentally discovered in my previous life. Her methods are ruthless and devoid of humanity. It must be that the other party has already discovered Qin Xia's existence and is taking preemptive measures to clean house. Qin Xia is pitiful, but those who are pitiful must also have something despicable about them. She approached Pei Gubei with impure motives, and loving someone she shouldn't has consequences. Now she's come to beg me, but it's only to save herself. General Pei, please return. You said you would marry Miss Qin. Don't betray her. Ah Qing, you promised. Pei Gubei actually took out the pouch I had given him. Liang Yi snatched it away. Ah Qing's things should be returned. Let's send them off. Liang Yi was afraid I would be contaminated by something unclean, so he dragged me away. He even pulled out a fire starter to vent his anger, burning the pouch to ashes. Ah Qing, this is gone. Make me another one. After that, Pei Gubei never came to bother me again. I was busy sewing my wedding dress, and all the outside news was told to me by Xiao Qiao's gossip. Pei Gubei eventually discovered that Qin Xia's intentions toward her were not pure. However, this was something I, being kind-hearted, secretly revealed to the youngest daughter of the Jingguogong mansion. When I sent someone to find Qin Guang, I kept a trick up my sleeve, using several easily identifiable items from the dowry as the final payment to Qin Guang. These were not allowed to be taken by the henchmen, they were gifts I left for the Qin family. If they investigate further, they will inevitably discover that the Qin family was using the salary I provided to find Pei Gubei while secretly supporting his relationship with Qin Xia. Pei Gubei has become a laughingstock, using the dowry meant for his childhood sweetheart to support his mistress. And I fueled the fire, making the entire capital aware of it. Didn't Pei Gubei boast that his love was blocked by me? Then I'll grant him his wish. Qin Xia lost her child and was driven out by Pei Gubei. I heard that Pei Gubei's marriage plans are also underway. I didn't expect his reputation to be so ruined, yet his marriage hasn't fallen through. What happens next is none of my concern. On the day of my wedding, I was nervous, even though it wasn't my first time getting married. When I exchanged vows with Liang Yi, it felt like a dream. In this new life, I am not the Wen Qing who humbled herself for love, nor the Wen Qing who lived in constant fear for love, nor the Wen Qing who was turned into a human pig by her lover and sought death. That night, Liang Yi told me a secret. He said he had liked me for a very long time. But later, I, the ungrateful one, was deceived by Pei Gubei's sweet words. He wanted to scold me awake. But as he scolded, he almost cut off all ties with me. He blamed himself for not having a mouth that could speak sweet words. After the wedding, news spread throughout the palace that the emperor was critically ill. Through my hints, Liang Yi noticed the second prince in Qi Wang. In the previous life, after Liang Yi was stabbed, he remained unconscious for a long time. The imperial physician said his chances of waking up were slim. Thus, the unremarkable second prince seized the opportunity to rise to prominence. The emperor had few heirs, besides Liang Yi and the second prince. There was only the third prince, who was still a toddler, with the second prince gaining momentum as the heir apparent. Many people quickly switched allegiances. The court gradually split into two factions, one supporting the second prince and the other supporting the emperor's younger brother, Prince Qi. As Prince Qi's open-handed henchman, Pei Gubei suffered numerous underhanded attacks from the second prince. I once even blocked an arrow for him. Through my deliberate leaks, Liang Yi discovered the second prince's ambitions. He became extremely busy, so much so that I rarely saw him. On the contrary, he gave me plenty of free time to handle my own affairs. In the spring, I became pregnant. I wanted to share this good news with Liang Yi, but instead, I found him severely injured. Seeing Liang Yi with a knife stuck in his chest, my heart nearly stopped. In this life, things had taken such a different turn from the previous one, and none of it was within my control. Could I really not change Liang Ye's destined fate? I hurriedly called for a court physician and sealed off news of Liang Ye's injury. Liang Yi lay on the bed, and I stayed by his side for a day and a night. Basins of red blood were carried out one after another. On the third day, Liang Yi still hadn't regained consciousness. I couldn't help but think back to the circumstances of Pei Gubei's ascension to the throne in my previous life. The old emperor was on his deathbed. The second prince had been assassinated, and Qi Wang was leading his troops straight toward the palace. I hurriedly sent a letter back to the Wen mansion. On the fourth day, Liang Yi still hadn't regained consciousness, and the old emperor in the palace was also in a coma. The guards said that Qi Wang had rebelled. His troops from the northwest were already heading toward the capital. I realized I couldn't just sit idly by anymore. After being reborn, my only wish was to protect the Wen family. My original intention remained unchanged. I wrote a letter to my father, urging him to see the situation clearly and, if all else failed, to retreat swiftly to save the family. As the prince tutor and my husband, I had already been labeled as part of the crown prince's faction. If Qi Wang used the pretext of cleaning out the court, The Wen family might suffer the same fate as the second prince's faction in my previous life. Accused of treason. After all, history is always written by the victors. I told Xiao Qiao to pack our belongings, and I forced Liang Yi into the carriage. The streets of the capital were already under martial law, but I dared to tell the driver to head straight for the Wen mansion. The carriage was eventually stopped. I lifted the curtain and saw Pei Gubei outside. He asked me where I was going. I said I was returning to the Wen mansion. He was wearing armor, riding a tall horse, with the jade pendant we had exchanged as a token of our love hanging at his waist. In my previous life, he had also been dressed like this, but the item at his waist was a perfume pouch embroidered by Qin Xia for him. On the day before Qi Wang was about to ascend the throne, Pei Gubei suddenly stabbed him with a knife, seizing the tiger token. He was likely the same as in my previous life, a spy for Qi Wang. Otherwise he wouldn't have appeared in the city with troops. Ah Qing, if you're willing, you'll be my only wife in this life. I cried. But it was fake. Brother Bei, I'll wait for you at the Wen mansion. Is that okay? He hurriedly left those words. Ah Qing, wait for me. He then ordered the soldiers to clear the way for my carriage. I gently wiped the sweat from the palm of my hand, watching him fasten the jade pendant. A joy I couldn't suppress welled up in my heart. Upon returning to the Wen mansion, I gathered all the members of the Wen family, both young and old. Since I was reborn and returned to the capital, I have been doing one thing. When the power I held could no longer protect the Wen family, I would strive to secure an escape route for the entire family. Over the past year, I had dug a secret tunnel leading out of the city within the Wen mansion. Now was the time to use it. Only my father stood beside me, with my eldest and second brothers behind him. I understood what my father intended to do, but I did not want my family to lose their lives again. Outside the mansion, chaos reigned. The sounds of clashing weapons, screams, and slaughter grew louder and closer. I had no time to hesitate. I opened the secret passage and sent the others away first. Father, brothers, trust me. You must protect Mother and the others. I have a way to escape. As I spoke, I heard Liang Yi calling my name. Ah Qing, are you planning to become a general's wife? Seeing Liang Yi standing there unharmed, everyone was stunned. Prince, you. My father stood frozen in place. Father-in-law, everything was a trap set by your son-in-law. Stay here at the Wen mansion and rest assured. Liang Yi embraced me tightly, gritting his teeth and said, Ah Qing, I avenged you. Yet you want to go back and become a general's wife? An unimaginable thought exploded in my mind. Had Liang Yi also been reborn? Can't you tell that was just a temporary measure? How could I possibly become Pei Gubei's wife? Gradually, the sounds outside the mansion grew quiet. The secret guards from the Eastern Palace reported that the second prince had been poisoned by Qi Wang. Qi Wang and Pei Gubei had plotted rebellion and were now captured, awaiting their punishment. Liang Yi told me that the emperor's illness was a ruse, and his assassination attempt, which left him severely injured and unconscious, was also a ploy to lure the enemy out and eliminate Qi Wang and his followers once and for all. The last time I saw Pei Gubei was in prison. Liang Yi said he might have remembered his previous life and had been rambling incoherently. When I saw him, he was clutching the jade pendant he had given me tightly in his hand. Ah Qing, are you seeking revenge on me? From the very beginning, when I met Qin Xia, you were already plotting against me. You made me lose my love, and now even the throne is gone. His eyes were bloodshot, and he violently pounded on the prison door. You've finally remembered. I sneered. But let me remind you, the word lost is inappropriate. These were never yours to begin with. Were they? Qin Xia approached him for money and power, and the throne never belonged to him. I had hesitated about being so ruthless. But since he remembered what happened in his previous life, I couldn't blame myself. Paigubei's head collided violently with the wall. Before fainting, he still clutched the jade pendant tightly in his hand. I called the jailer to retrieve it and wrapped it carefully in a handkerchief. As I turned around, I saw Liang Yi behind me, trying to take the jade pendant from my hand and throw it away. I whispered in his ear, "Let me do it. It's poisoned. Miss Wen, that's your future husband. If you don't find him, what if he freezes to death?" This Qing has always been full of tricks since she was a child. This jade pendant was poisoned from the start. I used the same method Paigubei used to kill the second prince to poison him. He is now a prisoner who suffers from daily headaches, incontinence, yet remains fully conscious. Paigubei plotted rebellion but did not die. Liang Yi helped me secretly transfer him to the residence across from Qin Xia's. I hired someone to watch him closely, keeping him alive just enough to make him witness Qin Xia's happiness every day. I poisoned him into silence, severed his tendons, and disfigured his face. I want him to see that the love he pursued all his life, the love that I blocked from him, is so ridiculous. His remaining years will be filled with nothing but emptiness. 7 months later, I gave birth to a son and a daughter. Liang Yi said they were ugly. I said they took after him. He looked a bit regretful. I patted him. Liang Yi turned to look at me. "Prince brother. In this life, Prince brother and I will grow old together." The end.